going on, everybody? This video will be working on my 1994 second gen Dodge. For those of you that watch regularly, know I have not made a video in a while. That's mainly because I haven't been home. Throughout the summer, I take a lot of car-related trips, and like the whole month of June, I was only home for like 1 week. And I did start to make a video, but it was just bits and pieces here and there, and I don't think I have enough footage to finish the video because I sold the truck too. Trying to get this month's gonna be a little slow on trip-wise, so I'm gonna try to get a few videos at least made so you have something to watch. Like I said, we'll be working on this thing. Like I said, it's a 1994 Dodge 2500. It's got a 12-valve Cummins automatic. It's 2-wheel drive, and I bought this thing in Tennessee. So, for those of you that don't know, I live in upstate New York, and trucks this clean are very, very, very hard to come by. Yes, the paint is faded here and there. It's got dents and dings, but this thing is very, very solid. You don't ever see that on a truck like this up in New York. They're usually completely rotted out by now. Yeah. So the whole reason for the wheels on this truck is that yes, they do look ridiculous, but they when we go to Tennessee, we spend the week there. We spend the first half of the week as a vacation, and the end of the week is a truck show we go to right here. Music City Showdown. It's in Franklin, Tennessee, just south of Nashville. It's usually a good show. This year it was all right, but yeah. So I put the wheels on the truck just to make it look kind of, ridiculous, I guess. And as you see, I did cut the fenders to make them fit, but I cut this whole section out in one solid chunk, so I can just put it back in and weld the seam up and act like nothing ever happened. Mainly because these are not staying on it. They are a 26 by 14 American Force, and I'd like to get some like 5th gen stocks for it later on whenever I can find some. They're kind of hard to find around here, but yeah, so I like to put those on it. Where was I going with this? I had something else to say too. Yeah. Oh yeah, now I remember. So before we even went on the trip, I had a 3rd gen Cummins, which is, I stated that I was making a video on a truck and I sold it. That was the truck. So that was the truck I was supposed to bring to the show, and I sold it like a few days before we left. I kept these wheels around it. I kept these wheels, and I drove my 4th gen down with an empty trailer, brought the wheels with me, and said I'm gonna buy something here and just mess with it and take that to the truck show instead. So that's what I did with this. This truck was, I'm technically the 3rd owner now. The guy I bought it from owned it for 26 years. So it was completely 110% bone stock. Never, ever been touched with in any sort of way. Yeah, so I touched it. That's pretty much what I did. It was a old farm truck. He said he used it to haul cattle and horses, and that's all it was ever used for. It's got 266,000 miles, which is really nothing for these things. I'll show you this side too. Just very, very clean. They came with these are just stock 2nd gen wheels. These wheels are for my 4th gen to put those on for the show. And tailgate's ratchet strap shut because it's missing the pins in here for the tailgate to actually latch, because he had some sort of like service cap in it at some point when he was done using it to haul trailers with. Interior is really not the greatest, but no 2nd gen interior is ever great. I will say that. That'll get fixed eventually. So pretty much the whole purpose of this video is to show you how to touch an untouched 2nd gen. All the basic mods you can do to it for practically free, just with some tools. All you need is some tools to do these things. You don't have to actually go out and buy any parts for it to do these certain things. I've already done a few of them to the truck, but it's easy enough. I can just revert it back just to show you again, which is what I'm going to do. And there's one thing I have yet to do, which you'll also see in the video. So I guess we'll get to it. So as you can see, it's a very stock 12-valve Cummins. So stock that I have never owned one that still has that cover on it, ever. I've seen that cover like in pictures and in other people's trucks, but I've never owned a 12-valve that still had that cover on it. So what we're gonna start with is removing the airbox and taking the silencer ring out. Doesn't make any bit of performance difference, but it does sound cool. So that's why I'm doing it. So get rid of that. This right here is your silencer ring. I think that's the right name for it. I don't know. There's just a snap ring clip in there. You just pry it out with a screwdriver. Yeah. That's simple. Now the thing makes cool turbo noises. So if you wanted to, you could put another filter on the end of that, or even put the stock airbags back on it after you remove the silencer ring. I just leave the thing open. I've never had an issue with it, you know, sucking anything in it and ruining the turbo, but that's just me. So I'm gonna leave it just like that. Makes all the cool fancy noises. Now we're gonna go on to turning up the pump. Pretty much what you do to turn up the pump is you can remove this screw right here, which I'll do in a second, and there'll be a little wheel in there. It has a whole bunch of teeth on it. And then say you're steering at the front of the motor, you want to turn that wheel counterclockwise like this. And I pretty much just go until, every truck's kind of different. I usually go until I can't turn it no more. So let me pop that cover off and I'll show what that looks like. A little hard to see because there's a whole bunch of stuff in the way, but that right there is just a 8mm Allen head. Pull this out. Don't lose the washer off it. Set to the side, and then in there, I don't know if you can see it. Let me grab the screwdriver so I can point at it. So the dipstick tube's kind of in the way, but if you can see right about there, a whole bunch of little teeth. So you want to take your flathead screwdriver, shove it in the hole, and push it towards the motor like that. And I pretty much go until I can't get any more out of it. So that's, they call it the smoke screw or whatever. It allows more fuel for more boost or less boost or something like that. I couldn't really tell you what it does. All I know is it's one of the parts of how you turn one up. So put that back on, and then we're done with that. And then there's another thing we can turn up as well in the pump. So after you get the cover off, you will see this. This is the fuel plate. There'll be 2 flathead screws holding it in, and if it's all stock and original and nobody's messed with it, they're gonna be very, very, very tight. So got those broke free, got the screws out of there. And the next thing I do is I take it out. This one's already been done. I already did this one, but right here, there will be a little nub hanging off the end of this. You pretty much cut it flush all the way up. It's not that even, but even enough. So you pretty much cut it straight to the end of here, and that will make you a 0 fuel plate. So all you do is, after you cut it, you put it back in, and then you put the screws in it, then you slide it all the way this way as far as it'll go. I'll show you that in a second. So before you tighten the screws down, you pretty much just take the plate and you push it all the way forward like that. So see, it moves, you push it all the way towards the front of the motor, and you tighten it down there, and that'll be the most fuel that can give you. You can also do it by not cutting it and just sliding the plate. That, you know, it all depends on what you really, really want to do with the thing. So what I always do is I cut them and I slide them back all the way. And now you'll tighten the screws down, you put the cover back on, and then when the cover's on, you can also slide the cover forward. So let me get this tightened up, put that back on there, and I'll show you that. So I got all the bolts back in it now. As you can see, this also, not much, but it does slide back and forth a bit. So another thing you want to do here is push this all the way to the front of the motor and tighten that down as well to get you the most fuel out of the thing. Now all these little adjustments do a little bit of something. They're not gonna do a whole lot, but you don't have to do all the adjustments if you don't want to. You can always start with one, work your way up from there. Like you can start with moving the AFC housing forward, you can start with the screw, you can start with just moving the fuel plate, you can go cut the fuel plate. Pretty much whatever you want to try. I always just do everything all at once because I know how usually these respond to doing all these things. That's why I do it to begin with. But like I said, everybody's truck will probably be a little bit different as to how it really reacts to it. Maybe because like mileage and stuff like that, I'm really not too sure about that. But like I said, this is just what I do. So I'm gonna get this tightened down, and then we'll move on to the next thing that I have yet to do to this truck at least. So that'll be a new part to show you. So as you saw, it does smoke, obviously more than it should, like as a stock vehicle. So that's kind of the whole thing you're going for there. But smoke also means, you know, more fuel, more power. So moving on to the next thing, we are going to advance the timing on this, and we're going to do it in pretty much not the way you're really supposed to do it. What I do is I remove the oil filter, or not oil filter, the oil fill housing here, and then you'll see the, down here, you'll see the nut for the timing gear for the injection pump. So what I do is I take the nut off, and then I put a puller on the gear, pop the gear off, I mark the crank, and I move the crank about a quarter turn counterclockwise, and then bolt everything back up. And that should advance the timing. I don't recommend doing it this way. There are the right and wrong ways of doing it. This is definitely the wrong way of doing this, but it's the way I do it, and it's the way I've had success in the past with it, so I'm gonna keep doing it until I mess something up and the truck doesn't run no more. So yeah, let me get some tools and get this thing, start taking it apart, and I'll show you what I mean once we get in there. So I got the oil fill cap off now. Both pieces of this, wait a second. This piece just threads out of this piece. You can see the threads in there. And then you just spin this piece off the timing cover. So in there will be the nut for the pump. Now the way I do it by myself, it's a lot easier with two people, but obviously I don't have two people here. I put one bar in the crank. It's a 15 mil bolt down there. And then I put a bar on the pump side, because these things are very, very, very tight. And I pretty much just pull them the opposite directions of each other, and should break the nut free off the pump. There we go. That wasn't so hard. Should be able to get rid of this one now. Take the nut off the gear first. So behind the nut, there's a washer. Whatever you do, do not drop that washer inside the timing cover. That would be a very, very bad day. I have yet to ever drop one, so I'm hoping today's not that day. See if I can get you down there to see what I'm looking at. As you can see, I don't know if you can see them, there's two bolt holes, top and bottom of that gear. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a puller on there and pop that gear off the pump. Once you do that, then the pump won't be spinning when we turn the motor over, so that way it'll advance the timing. Puller is on there now. I just use a generic Harbor Freight wheel puller. They do sell a puller specifically to do this, but you can just save money and buy the Harbor Freight one. It's way cheaper, and you can get it at your local Harbor Freight. You don't have to order it online. So what I'm gonna do now is get this wrench on the end of that over there and tighten it down until that gear pops off. So now the gear's loose. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn the crankshaft a quarter turn. So you can focus on it. Get my hand down there, point at it. Where are you? Where are you? Right there. This guy right here is your crank sensor. So what I usually do is I mark a line on the crank sensor and then turn it quarter turn counterclockwise. If I were you, I would definitely mark it with a marker, just so you know where you started and where you ended up with. I know where I started and where I ended up with, and when I go to if I have to redo it, which I don't think I will, I'll know where to go to be back to factory timing. So that's all done now. Got the puller off of the pump gear there. I'm gonna put everything back together, and hopefully this thing runs. Everything's back together now. The nut in the pump gets torqued to 155 foot-pounds of torque, and should be ready to start. So hopefully it does just that. Let's find out. Well, it runs. That's a good thing. I don't know how much faster it is, but my guess, I think these things are around 16 or 14 degrees before top dead center. Let's see if this cover outside the pump, outside the motor tells me here. If it does, I can't find it, but I'm pretty sure that like 16 or 14 degrees before top dead center. With that quarter turn, it should bring it hopefully around 20 degrees or so, which these motors still can go more than that. I don't know if I personally would do more than a quarter turn without actually having a gauge on it to see exactly what the timing is. But as you can see, just by doing what I did, not usually you have to get top dead center, take the delivery valve out, all this stuff to get it to be advanced. But as long as your truck is bone stock, you should be able to do exactly what I did. Just turn the motor counterclockwise a quarter of a turn, and that will increase the timing. Can't give you an exact number on how much it will increase it, but it will increase it, and it will be, obviously, it should be quicker because it'd be, you know, more timing means more faster, more better. So yeah, that's done. That's all we're doing motor-wise, and let's see. Other than that, only other things you can do is if your truck still has a muffler and catalytic converter, you can cut those off, which this still had a catalytic converter. I've only ever owned one other 12 valve that still had one. And as you can see, I just welded a piece of 3-inch pipe and it's where it used to be. So that way the exhaust comes all the way out the back still. And that's about as much as you can do to one of these being stock configuration and not spending any money on any parts. This was all pretty much free with the you know, tools you have laying around. Yeah, let's I guess I'll take it for a ride, see if it's any faster. I'm gonna brake boost it a little bit and see what it does. So it's still slow, but you know, better than what it was stock. I'll call that somewhat of a win for being completely free. Well, this would be the end of this video. We didn't do too much, but I just wanted to show how to turn up these trucks when they're completely stock and do it with no money whatsoever. There will be more on this truck in the future. I do plan on keeping this one for a little bit because I actually have been looking for one of these for a while in this exact configuration. I'm going to be doing more to it, like bigger turbo, bigger injectors, some other pump mods, and just try to make it somewhat of a quick truck, but still do it relatively cheap. Other than that, I'm not too sure if I'm going to do anything else to the body. I might fix the fenders there when I find new wheels for it, because like I said, these ones are coming off it. I'd like to get some 5th gen stocks, like I said, put some street tires on it, and go for there. I'll probably paint the frame just so, because it's real nice and clean. I'll paint it nice and black, and I am also going to be building track bars as well, so I'll make a video on that whenever I get the rest of the materials. I have most of the stuff, but not everything to do it, so we'll put some track bars on this thing, put a bigger turbo on it, some injectors, and just, you know, make it faster, I guess. So thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.